All right, friends. Good to see you all. You all have the text. Who's here? David is here.
I'm staying on, Rabbi.
Yeah, stay on. Yeah, the middle. David Fine is here, yeah.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Dr. Joseph is here. Good morning. Shmuel Stengi, by all means, stay on. Okay, we're going to look here, friends, at the mitzvah of, Ronnie, take the paper. I'm sorry, it's in the middle there. To expedite matters, I'm going to just read the translation. What we're looking here is the Rambam. The subject matter is hospitality, because that's this week's Parsha, Avram's extraordinary hospitality. Heads up where we're going. Don't read, just listen. We're going to look, listen up, don't read. We're going to look at the way the Rambam defines hospitality. And we're going to raise a number of questions. On the way, don't read, listen, so you know what's coming. On the way, the wording, the phraseology, the way the Rambam defines this mitzvah, a number of difficulties, as we will see. First and foremost, the difficulty will be that everything that Rambam rules, of course, comes from where? From the Gemara, from the Talmud. And we'll see that he seems to say something, if not in the ruling, but at least in terms of his proof text, different to the Gemara. And why does he change it? And other questions as well. Let's begin. So it's chapter 14, Mishnah Torah, the book of Judges, the laws of mourning, which include also other laws as well. I'll read the English. It's a mitzvah saseshel divreya. It's a rabbinic positive precept to visit the sick, comfort the mourners, escort the dead. The word levaya, friends, you should just know this is an aside. We translate that as funeral. It doesn't mean funeral. Levaya means to escort the dead. The mitzvah, friends, is you got to walk after the coffin, behind it as it's being taken to burial. So just coming to Paperman, sitting there and leaving, it didn't really do the mitzvah. Even if you're not going, friend, just tell you this, even if you're not going to the cemetery to fulfill the mitzvah, at least with the coffin, huh? We're not allowed to comfort a mourner, but the dead is still before them. The mitzvah of comforting mourners, good point, is only after the burial. And even then, the halacha is for the first 3 days only if you're very close, and then after 3 days for just a general acquaintance. So I'm just telling you what you do is, as the dead is being taken out, you walk behind at least 4 cubits. That's the mitzvah of alvaya. That's the honor. You're escorting the soul in its journey. That's the idea. So to comfort the mourners is one mitzvah. Escort the dead, levaya, to comfort the mourners is the shiva. But to escort the dead, that's another mitzvah. Dower the bride. Accompany the departing guests. As well as to cheer the bride and groom, which means to bring joy to them on their wedding day. Dower means provide money she should be able to afford a wedding, but also to be there and bring joy to the chassan and kala, and to assist them in whatever they need. Even though all these are precepts, even all these precepts are of rabbinic origin, they are implied in the biblical verse, the verse in the Torah, "V'ahavta l'recha kamocha," you shall love your neighbors yourself. That is, whatever you would have others do to you, do to your brothers in Torah and precepts. Halacha number 2, the reward for escorting a stranger, which means a guest who comes to you. I'm just going to point out here, the mitzvah of achnasas orchim is not friends who anyway would have their own meal. It's people who wouldn't have a meal. Now, inviting friends, that's obviously so. That's a good thing in its own right. And it promotes camaraderie, and it's a virtuous, wonderful thing. But in no way dismissing its value. But the emes in mitzvah achnosas orchim is someone who does not have a Shabbos table to go to or a Yom Tov table. That's achnosas orchim. Just as an aside, just Rabbi Groner, the legendary Rabbi Groner, our rabbi in Australia, who was, there's a book, someone wrote a book, an Australian, Melman. The book, friends, is this thick. It's called Larger Than Life. And it's the story of his life. Interview, it's a beautiful book. And I just want to tell you that at his table, Rabbi Groner, consistently, every meal were these kinds of people. I mean, one guy with a wheelchair, and a widow and an orphan, and people a little strange and off, that it's not so exciting to have at your table. They were his regular guests. And you couldn't invite them to your home because they wouldn't leave his. No, Rabbi Groner were his guests.
Because they felt so special.
Huh?
Because they felt so special.
Yeah, they felt Rabbi Groner's table. They were his ornaments. They was his takshitim. As a kid, I didn't appreciate it, just looking back now. Okay, so the reward of escorting a stranger, this is referring to hospitality. Escorting means when he leaves. It's greater than any reward. Your guest is leaving. Again, this is the classic person who doesn't have a Shabbos table. Could be he's traveling. That's one reason. Or he just doesn't have one. So escorting them as they leave your house, the reward for that is greater than any reward. It's a practice introduced by our father Avraham, a way of kindness which was habitual with him. He served food and drink to wayfarers and escorted them. Then he concludes, hospitality to wayfarers is greater. Again, these people are, they're wayfarers because they have no home here. That's classically why they don't have a Shabbos table, because they're passing through. That's the classic guest. Is greater than welcoming the divine presence. As it is written in this week's Parsha, he saw three men. Avram saw three men. They were really angels. He thought they were men. And he ran to them and invited them into his house. The sages have declared, final statement of the Rambam, anyone that does not escort his guest is almost guilty of bloodshed. What's the reason for that? So the commentaries say that if something happens to him, he gets ambushed, you're guilty because had you escorted him, that wouldn't have happened. He was left alone. We'll soon see another explanation, the Rebbe's explanation. That's the summary so far. Now, first question, a long list of questions. The first question is on the final statement. He says, hospitality to wayfarers, it's greater than welcoming the divine presence. What's the proof? That's a huge statement. Welcoming strangers is more than being a host to God. Okay, what's the proof? Avram saw three men. Now you look at this proof. I don't see any proof there yet. What exactly is the proof? They saw three men. The proof is that what did he do? He went and ran to them and brought them in and left God, as it were, in the lurch. That's the proof. Now, let's look at the Gemara. Let's look at what the Gemara says, which is the source of the Rambam. Let's look at the source. So we don't need the whole quote, but I'll just quickly explain what the quote is saying. Bottom of the page, from the Sechta Shabbos, page 127. The caps are the Mishnah. The Mishnah said like this. Listen up, it's not in your text. The Mishnah says that on Shabbos, the sages relaxed certain rabbinic prohibitions under certain circumstances. Now, normally on Shabbos, by rabbinic law, you cannot clear a room out. It's strenuous work. You have a room and it's full of boxes or whatever it is, and you're not allowed to just empty it. Even though it's not a Torah prohibition, you're not carrying it. It's just boxes of whatever it might be. But the Mishnah says, but the sages forbade it because it's a strenuous act and it's not in the spirit of Shabbos. They lifted it to make room for guests at your table, so you're going to clear out furniture, whatever it is. Or, second thing, if people are coming to learn Beis Medrash, in the Beis Medrash, there's things in the Beis Medrash, there's objects there, and people are coming to learn, then it's heavy, it doesn't matter, schlep it out, move it to make room for. Now, Rabbi Yochanan said, hospitality to wayfarers is as great as early attendance in the Beis Medrash, since the Mishnah just stated, I quoted to you, you're allowed to remove these big objects to make room for guests or an account of the neglect of the Beis Medrash, because if you don't remove them, people are not going to be able to come. So we see coming to yeshiva to learn to the Beis Medrash is equal to having guests, because for both of them, we get the license to be able to do what you normally do not do on Shabbos. That's what he said. That was Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Dimi of Navdah said, it's greater. No. If you look at this mission, guest is even greater. Why? Because first he says, you're allowed to remove these objects to make room for guests. And then he said, and as a second thing, on account of the neglect for the Beis Medrash. So the fact that he puts it first means it's even greater. Now, but we want to get to the next one. You clear? Because he puts it number one and then number two for learning. Number one, guest is even more important. Guest is even more important than what? Than making room for people to come and learn early Torah study, which is a huge thing. Now the final thing. Rabbi Yehuda said in Rav's name, hospitality is greater. To wayfarers is greater than, never mind, greater than making room for people to come and learn. It's greater than welcoming the presence of the Shekhinah, which is what we're talking about here. And what's a proof text from the Gemara? As is written, and he said, Avram said to Hashem, just context, he sees three men, he runs to get them, and then he turns to Hashem and says, my Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, don't leave, but I'm busy now, I can't communicate with you. That's the proof text of the Gemara. So what's our question? The proof text of the Gemara is a strong proof text. We understand the proof. He says to Hashem, sorry, please don't leave me, because don't, stay if you will, but I cannot listen to you. I can't communicate with you. I'm busy with guests. These words convey that hospitality is greater than receiving the Shekhinah. But the Rambam's proof text, he saw three men. It doesn't tell us the story there. It's the rest of it. He runs, looks after them, and says to God, excuse me. Oh, that's your proof. Why does he change the proof text, which is from the Gemara, which is clear, to a proof text which the reader is that puzzling? It's really a double question. The Rambam never changes the source. His source is this piece of Gemara. So just quote it as it is. Now, if you want to change it for a stronger proof text, okay. But there's no proof at all in what you're quoting. You saw three men. Question's clear? That's question number one. Now, and second question, go back to the first halacha. He says, it's a rabbinic precept to visit the sick, comfort the mourners, escort the dead, dower the bride, accompany the departing guests. Accompany the departing guests, in Hebrew, why not just say hospitality? That's what you're talking about. That's the end when they leave. That's whatever. But say it's a rabbinic law to be hospitable. He should say not how the lavais ha'orchim. That's the second question. Third question. He said at the end of halacha number 2 that if you don't, it's like bloodshed. And the commentaries say, because if a guy gets killed, and because you just let him leave and you weren't watching him as he left, so it's like bloodshed. So first of all, the question is, this is so rare. Anyone who doesn't escort his guests is like you killed him. That's if he does get killed. But that's extremely rare. So you're living in a city, not if you're living by a highway where he's going to go onto the highway and bandits. It's extremely rare. So how could we apply this to anyone? It's like almost guilty of bloodshed, of such a rare, hopefully never occurrence will never happen. And furthermore, is the main question: if by escorting him It's like you're saving him from being killed. Do you have to say, as he says in the beginning, the reward for escorting a stranger is greater than any reward? What you can do is tell me, what you said in the end is much stronger than that. You tell me if I don't escort him, like I killed him, you don't have to tell me the reward is greater than the reward. That is the biggest reward, to save someone's life. If that's what he means, then it renders the first statement, the reward, as like meaningless. This is much greater. You're saving his life. How can it be greater than that? I understand that. Now, another question, unrelated to the Rambam, which we're going to answer with one insight. So unrelated to our questions here, the bottom line is that from Avram's conduct we learn that it's greater to receive guests, wayfarers, than to receive the divine presence. The question is, but objectively and factually, Avram did not do that mitzvah. He thought he was doing it, but he wasn't. They were angels in not need of anything that he served them. They went along and they ate and drank just to play their role, pretended to, as it were, but angels don't need food and drink or anything. So objectively, if an angel comes, God's revealed to you, and the angel comes, are you allowed to say, sorry, God, and deal with it? No. And another person, a wayfarer, yes, yeah, who needs your help. So the question is, Avram did the wrong thing. Okay, he's not going to be criticized. He thought he was doing a mitzvah, but it's very strange to say that Avram was set up to do something that was actually objectively wrong because they were not actually wayfarers. That's extremely not just puzzling, but unsettling. And furthermore, we're learning a law from something which didn't happen. It happened in his mind, but it didn't actually happen. Torah is the Torah of truth. So we're learning a law that hospitality is greater than receiving the divine Shekhinah from a story with Avram, which really never really happened because they weren't wayfarers. He thought it was happening. It doesn't sit well. Potatoes emes. It's got to be true. What he did, we do. But turns out he didn't do it. So that's a very strong question, which we're going to answer as well. And the answer to all the above is this. In general, when it comes to helping somebody else, tzedakah, gemilas chasadim, the emphasis is help the person. Sure, you should do so with a smiling countenance, and that's all very nice, but that is secondary. The main thing is write the check, give the tzedakah, give them the food. You know, it's a kind of a joke that they say, why didn't the sages enact to make a bracha before you give tzedakah? Someone comes to knocking your door, extreme case, they need food. Purchase food. In the old days, in Talmudic times, every Friday, representatives of the Bezdin would go around and collect food for the poor, for Shabbos and for the week. What was the last thing we were just saying? Move quickly.
There's no bracha on stuff.
Oh, there's no bracha because, thank you, Ron.
Collect all the food.
Yeah, because if there was a bracha, the poor person's coming, he's starving, and you're going to say, bracha, big mitzvah, he's going to go to the mikveh, and then he's going to meditate, and the person going to faint from hunger. So the sages said, no brachas, help the guy. Bottom line, give the food, write the check. Hospitality is different. Hospitality is not like the regular acts of kindness. What's most important, I'll say it in one word, what your guest wants from you more than anything else is you. It's you. And therefore food and drink as well. But the main thing is you're giving yourself, and therefore, very quickly, when does the guest really feel that you are happy that he's there and that you're giving of yourself? It's when he leaves. And you escort him like royalty, then he has that feeling that I was a welcome guest. Otherwise, if you still sit at the table and he just walks out, he feels like I was in a position, he had to do it, and happy I'm gone. But when you walk into the door and give him that covet, it's a covet thing. It's not food and drink. That is when it's expressive of he was truly a welcome guest and you're treating your guest like royalty. That's the main thing. And that answers all our questions. That's why the Rambam, when he describes the mitzvah of Achnasas Orchim, doesn't say Achnasas Orchim. he stresses in the second line of the first halacha, accompanying the guest, because that's when it comes out. And that's the meaning at the end of halacha number 2. If you didn't bloodshed, it doesn't mean because he gets killed, you're responsible, you didn't accompany him. It means spiritually, he feels like sinking into the earth. Because if you don't walk into the door, he walks out and feels, I'm just a burden. They tolerated me. He has to do it. I'm gone. So he spiritually, his blood drains from his face and he wants to sink into the earth. You spiritually killed him. That's what he means by the bloodshed here, not the literal thing. And that answers the proof text. Why does the Rambam bring the proof text? Not that he went and ran and brought them, because that's the tangible stuff. The proof text is that he noticed them. He saw them. Here, God is revealing himself to him, and he's on the lookout for wayfarers, that he notices them. That's about him, not what he's doing. That he really wants to have guests at his table. It's a great privilege, and that's what he wants to do. That's the proof text. He doesn't want to bring the proof of the Gemara. The Gemara says he ran and did, because that focuses what he did. We're talking here, says the Rambam, the main thing of hospitality is what are you giving of yourself, not the things that you give, not the food and drink. That's secondary. Where do you see what hospitality is? That while God's revealed to Avraham, he sees people. Sorry, Hashem, the seeing already, that tells you. That encapsulates what hospitality is. The interest, his desire to have people who are needy at his table. Clear? So it's not what he does, it's the attitude here, the gavra. That's the emphasis. That's why the Rambam changed the proof text and brings this, so it's clear to us what sets apart the mitzvah of hospitality from every other mitzvah. Every other tzedakah is how much you give and what you give. Hospitality is how are you serving your guests? How are you relating to them? Do they feel truly that they're welcome and royalty? And that answers also how Avraham did the mitzvah. Our question is, angels don't need what you give them. But now we just learned it isn't about what you give. It's about the attention. He gave himself. He did give himself. So he did the mitzvah of hospitality. And moreover, the angels were flattered. But they were flattered because they knew that Avraham is so precious in Hashem's eyes. And they know how Hashem regards a Yiddish neshama. And here is a Yid giving their attention to him on a deep level. It means they were experiencing Hashem deeper than they normally would, because angels are just angels. But when a Yid is connecting to an angel, then they're connecting to Hashem at a deeper level. So they gained from it. Their connection to God was deeper because they're not just doing their mission as robotic spiritual angels. They're actually getting the attention, the affection of a Yid. He thought they were a human being. It doesn't matter. He's relating to them. They fed off his mitzvah. They fed off his sincerity. They fed off and experienced the aura of his neshama. So they really got, even as angels, what hospitality is meant to give. And that is not things, but the person himself. And here they're experiencing the beauty of a Yiddish neshama. So the mitzvah was done perfectly. It wasn't like he was duped and he thought he was. That's hospitality. He gave himself and the recipient actually received. Because really it's a spiritual thing. And that's what the angels got equally as well. And that answers all the questions that we asked. All right, dear friends. A wonderful Shabbat.